Hey everyone, welcome to Saturday Night Popcorn. This is Jason.
And this is Kai. We have another great discussion for you today. The movie of the day is Seven Samurai.
Yeah,
It's from 1954, so I want to give everyone a spoiler warning.
yes, it is a very brand new movie.
This is like great grandfather age at this point.
I know 1954. Man, we're like just out of World War II. Yeah, right?
Yeah, because it ended what, like
Something like that.
47, 48? No. That ended in early 50s?
Yeah, when we're coming out of it, maybe we should look this up, but
Yeah, I'm about to check right now, so we're not like preaching fake news.
yeah.
40, 39 to 45.
Oh, I was like totally wrong. Yeah, it is 45. Okay. So like 10 years later from World War II,
Yeah,
which
we were
is
cool with, yeah.
crazy knowing like how far away or how back in the past this movie came out. But
Hmm.
uh but yeah, Seven Samurai, it is part of the Criterion collection. It is
Exactly what you
one.
like.
Yeah, right.
That's how I pitch movies to you. Like, hey, part of the Criterion collection. Can we watch
Anything
it?
part of the Criterion collection we'll watch it. This is a movie, I think. It is one.
Yeah.
I was just telling Kai before we got on the call. We started it early. We started it during the daylight and ended
Oh
it in like
goodness.
pitch blackness.
So I had to watch it in parts because I was like,
Yeah.
there's no way I'm about to finish this whole movie today. So I started it Friday and I was like, I made it like half. I was like, okay, cool. Let me watch about a halfway. So it's like an hour and a half in. That's a regular movie length. And then I woke up Saturday and I finished it.
I thought we were gonna do that. Granted, we did
Hmm.
take like a little break because
There
our
was an
dog decided
intermission,
there was an intermission and an actual intermission. I was like, that was a
which was
good
cool
five
as
minutes.
hell. Yeah, that was cool as hell.
And some like really good atmospheric music too, some
Yeah,
beats to listen to the intermission. But our
got the
dog decided
sexy,
to pee on the carpet, so we had to take a little time away from that.
hilarious. So you
So
had a double intermission.
basically, yeah. So we bought ourselves a new carpet cleaner, and so we're like, we might as well test it out now. But
Hey,
um, but yeah, so yeah, we did take some breaks and stuff, like 3 hours. It's like what, three and a half
3:30.
hours,
Yeah,
like that.
it's like
Excuse
three
me. I
thirty
think we're
something.
both a little like congested
Congested.
and all that stuff. But
Blame
um,
spring,
yeah, right,
the
and all
super
the
bloom
pollen.
in California, and then whatever's going on in Oregon.
Yeah. but uh but yeah, wait, like immediately, what'd you think about this movie?
It trips me out that a lot of these old movies, like I can say old movies, a lot of these movies that were shot on film because that's the only medium they had, like they still hold up. Like you can look at them and be like, oh, this was shot last year, right? It's like, no, this was shot in 1954.
Yeah.
That's what blew my mind. Oh, and the strange haircuts, like the haircuts kind of got me.
Uh, and I wanted to take some time to look back as to like how much of like history. Granted, we all know that samurais did exist and everything. They're
Yeah.
like the feudal Japanese kind of like form of a knight and everything. And I kind of wanted to look up whether or not like samurais were actually like douchebags, but is it you kind of got some of that tone where it's like
You for
some of
sure.
them were
It's like,
douchebags.
dude, you're just here to help me. Like, you don't have to do that to me. Come on. Like, they were me.
Yeah.
Maybe because they were held at such high, like, they were held above everyone. Like, oh, you're a samurai. You made it to that point. Maybe that's why they acted the way they did, because they felt like they were above everyone else.
I can see that because we do hear like you do know that from like medieval times where like the knights were like these
Oh,
elite individuals and like would
just
become
slaying women. Yeah.
lords and
Slaying
stuff.
people and women.
Yeah, right. But I guess you would we see it nowadays, even like with our popular people in our lives and stuff, and the celebrities that are in this world, they kind of like
Uh,
hold themselves to that certain stature. and that can come off really pretentious or whatever and stuff, and you
Yeah.
never know. But
Depending on the person, yeah.
but you saw it in the story that that some individuals that are not samurai would see samurai as they kind of do what they want.
Hmm.
And there was that portion where like they found out that they had armor kind of like stashed around the town, and then they figured out that those are samurai armor. So how would you get that armor without being violent to a samurai? And so they're kind of like being like, oh, like what does this mean? Are you gonna like attack
Skeptical.
us too and stuff
Yeah.
and everything? But people, normal people would do their thing to like protect their land.
Yeah. As they should.
Yeah. it, it's a interesting story. I feel like that's definitely like one of the things that kind of like stood out to me, that it was long, 3.5
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
but it was a story that developed and kind of changed over time and stuff, and it got more nuanced. And you're like
Yeah.
at towards the end, like sadly when you see some of these samurai die, you're like my girlfriend next to me like, oh no, that's no, that's like that sucks.
Why do you have to go? No.
Yeah, like you feel for it. I totally thought the old like the main samurai was gonna be the one
uh,
dying,
for
but
sure.
I thought that was where the story was
For
gonna
sure.
go.
It's like, oh, he's the tenured one. Get him out of here.
Yeah, come on.
So the young guy just getting slashed. Like, come on. I loved the shot. They did it twice, but one of the samurais, I actually used it as our cover for this episode, but laying in the flowers.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, I really like those shots.
I feel like no matter what, I think the main like that monologue from the kind of like douchebag samurai that's like drunk and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like his monologue and the way that they kind of like filmed that section where it's like really close up to his face. You're
Hmm.
able to see every expression of his
On
face.
intensity.
Yeah, the intensity. I feel like that could have been like where like a lot of people's like minds will go for this movie, but
Oh yeah.
a shot like him, just a young samurai, a young person that's probably not considered a samurai at that moment,
Yeah.
just laying in a field of flowers and stuff, and that kind of shows you like the nature of the environment that they're in, but then also the subtlety that they he still wants to enjoy the fruits of the nature around him.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, I I really liked, and we've talked about it previously, like on previous episodes when we watched older movies, that the directors back then gave a scene time. They let us see like a scene build up, and like they didn't cut away and cut to a close up. They just let you kind of just focus on, hey, this is what's happening. This is the interaction between these people, or this is this fight. And I really enjoy like the camera movement or lack thereof throughout this movie.
Yeah, I agree with that too, where it set up you why spend all that time setting up these scenes with like a dozen or so people sometimes,
Yeah.
and then try to cut to like different spots or something, or like ruin that scene by cutting around and going close up or something, like let the scene kind of develop and play out for the viewer. I think what one of the main examples for me with that, where it's towards the beginning when they're kind of like when the farmers go out to try to go find the samurai that will go help them.
Hmm.
They, I think the first guy that they interact with like tells them like no, like I you know who I am and stuff. But there's a shot where like the two farmers are kind of like down and out, and they're like, what are we gonna do? And there's people walking in front of the camera as
Mm,
normally would happen. And so you kind of have that distance from the main actors and the main
yeah.
point of view, but then you have the realm of like, all right, life is still kind of going on. These people don't care what the hell they're dealing with and stuff. So
Yeah. And you don't see
that
that
was
in a lot of
interesting.
movies. Like a
Yeah.
lot of movies, they try to keep it as clean as possible, but there's something about like adding in typical real life elements, like people just walking through frames or walking in front of you as you're just moping.
Yeah.
That added to it.
Yeah, you see like Marvel kind of like has that kind of negative to them that
Yeah.
they're like everything's super clean. You can tell everything's
Hmm.
like scientific, where like, oh, like no one's gonna be walking around the shot, or we're gonna take another
People are
one.
gonna scream and cry at this moment right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if DC changes it now that they have the DCU.
Yeah, right. And who is it? Is
James
it it's
Gunn.
not yeah, James Gunn. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I honestly one of the main things for me too, in terms of like the story
Yeah.
and the development of the story, was the development of that samurai slash farmer that kind of had like a an ulterior motive to like he was a farmer, and it there's a
Hmm.
point where like he's holding that baby when that kind of mill house kind of goes on fire and stuff, and he's like,
Oh yeah.
this was me and
Yeah.
everything. I was handed off to somebody to like grow up away from my family and stuff. But I feel like he changed the most. Like he was that
Oh, for
drunk
sure.
dude just wanting to like boast her and stuff, and had, like was trying to like fabricate his like lineage to show them. That was that was too funny. Where they're like, "You're like 13, if that's correct." And that's why I thought. That's why I thought. Sadly, I was like, man, I was like, I guess it's kind of like nice that like they didn't kind of go down possibly a common trope that we see now. But
Yeah.
I totally thought that he was gonna be the one that kind of like does a heroic thing, and the old man, the kind of main samurai, gets like
Hmm.
injured and like mortally wounded, and then he's like, "You're a samurai." And I thought he was totally gonna do that, where like he tells like
No, that's some like new age movie crap. Like,
yeah, I think so. I think that's like
I'm
the
passing
what we're
this down
used
to
to.
you. Like, come on, bro.
Like passing the baton of like, you're the new samurai. But no, he kicks the bucket too.
No, but I think we said this. We said something similar in last week when we watched Crouching Tiger, where we thought like, oh, they're gonna save him,
Yeah,
um,
right.
and they didn't give us that. Like, they didn't give us the happy ending. But we're so used to movies giving us the happy ending of like, oh yeah, somebody rode off into the moonlight and got the potion and brought it back, even though the moonlight ride was 14 hours and he only had 2 hours to live. So that's what movies do now. And like movies back then were like, nah, this is real life.
He's gonna die.
Yeah. Say
I
bye bye.
guess I guess that's why we're like
Bye.
so shocked with like things like the Game of Thrones, where like they like kill off a main
Oh,
character,
everybody. Yeah.
and
Every
you're like
season.
shocked about that. But back then, in this time in like 1950s, they're like, yeah, it's real
They were
life. That
just
guy's gonna
Michael
die.
Jordan shoulder shrug, like
Yeah.
on to the next. Who's the new king?
That's yeah, I guess so. But that's sort of what I was like thinking, but it also kind of like set up that shot at the end where like it
The,
shows
the
the four
ambush by the
individuals.
villagers in the trees is something I have down as my like.
What is it?
The ambush when the villagers like I think the attackers are coming through the trees or walking through like all the trees and the villagers come out and attack them before they can get be attacked towards the end of the movie.
I'm trying to recall. There's so many times where it's like I feel like the villagers kind of stepped up a lot too, where it's like
Oh yeah.
they did their thing. Even some of the like the women that like were protected inside of the house still kind of like attacked
They were
individuals.
crying
Like,
early on
hey,
and
come on.
changed up, yeah. Like we're not trying to lose this village, just go.
Yeah.
Like what do I need
But
to do?
it's a good it's a I commend the story, like and what we probably would say like, oh, that's not a typical like, it's not the typical hero story. Like some of them died, some of them like, yeah, like this is something that they all kind of like understood that they're not going to kind of walk away from.
Yeah.
But even the guy that the young samurai like really liked and wanted
Mhm.
to embody, the one that's like the quiet, but he's like precise, and he does
Mhm.
things well and stuff. And even he died. I was like, man, that was like when I was like, oh fuck, that guy died too. This is
Yo,
gonna suck. They're
nobody
all
was
gonna
safe.
die.
Nobody was safe.
Like, might as well just pack it up. Come on, they're all gonna die.
Like, all right, just get to the end. Show me when everybody's dead. Come on. Did you have any dislikes?
I don't know. I find it difficult to say the length of the movie
Yeah,
is is hard to ingest.
yeah.
Definitely like granted we probably are blessed to be able to like watch these movies in like on one day and then kind of and like go back and kind of watch it and continue watching it the second day and stuff
Mm,
and watching it like as a piecemeal. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of like in the perspective of people back then, like watching a movie, or like even if we like weren't so enamored by like how much little time we have to do things that we like.
hmm.
Will I say the length of the movie the is difficult? The beginning is kind of hard to kind of like get going, the
Yeah,
momentum. I think once they kind of get the ragtag samurai, that's when I really started like, all right, this is gonna be like this is going. That's already like an hour into the movie.
that's honestly exactly how I felt. Like one of my dislikes, I put it as a dislike, but it's exactly what you're talking about. It's not that, it's just the amount of time. Like to look down at a timeline when you're about to start a film and see 3 hours and 30 minutes, it's like that's daunting. Like it's 4 right now. I'm not gonna be done until 7. Like what? But once you get, because I, yeah, you and I spoke about it. Like I watched it in two pieces. Like I watched the first hour and a half. So I got lucky. Like I watched the first hour and a half and I was like, man, it's slow, but that's typical for movies back then. Like they have a lot of buildup. So I was like, man, it's slow. But once I got to that second half, I was like, okay, now it's starting to pick up. This is getting better.
Yeah, because I think you also have more characters. Not saying that the farmers are kind of like one noted and stuff. In the beginning, they are because they're just like,
Oh
all
yeah.
right, we're down and out. We need someone to save us, and we
My
need to go
rice.
find people, samurais that don't care that we're not gonna pay them, even though they're hoarding things. That was fucked up. I was And then when they all think they're gonna die, that's when all the sake comes out and
For real.
everything.
Let's get lit. Like it's our lives are over.
Isn't that the one time you don't want to get wasted when you're like, we probably could die tomorrow. This is like really important.
They just want to waste it. Just like, whatever.
Just wake up hungover and everything.
They just don't die that day, just have a terrible hangover.
But yeah, it is daunting. But then you kind of like have to look at it in the perspective like, if you went out to go watch this in a movie theater, would you actually even say that you would go out to go watch it in a movie theater knowing that it's like 3.5 hours?
I watched Avatar, so yeah.
That's true.
But I think you that's one of the times you question, like, dude, do I want to be in a movie theater with a bunch of strangers for 3 hours? And you have to really look at the movie and be like, yeah, it is going to be one of those ones that's like, there's one that's out now, Beau is Afraid from Ari Aster. And
I
I
was
saw
gonna
the
say
trailer. I was
it's not
like,
Ari Ass. I was like pretty
no,
sure it's
asked
Ari
her.
Aster.
So I saw the trailer. I was like, okay, this is typical for him. Like, it's not explaining or showing anything to do with the movie. So I want to check it out. And this is before I saw the runtime. And then now that it's out, I was like, oh, let me check out the runtime. Let me see if I can check it out after work on Friday. And it said 3 hours. And I was like,
Oh,
I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I actually didn't even know that. I really want to watch that movie, but I didn't know it was 3 hours long.
Yeah.
That might
Yeah.
change my perspective. Yeah, I might just want
Exactly.
to rent it or something.
That's exactly how I'm feeling. Because I'm like, okay, I can sit in the theater 3 hours, or I can wait. Because now movies are coming on streaming services within like a month and a half.
Yeah, you're gonna pay your fucking whole paycheck to watch it
Oh, for
right
sure.
out. But
But at least you get to watch it in the comfort of your home.
Yeah, you fucking buy beer and get wasted by yourself in your
Uh,
own home.
I'd be scared of this movie.
Yeah. But
um,
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like that's like I guess it's like talking about the runtime. I
yeah,
will reiterate that like the beginning is really slow.
yes.
But then once
First
the kind of
hour,
momentum
roughly.
gets going, yeah, the first hour roughly, like yeah, like you said, it's a little tedious. I feel like that's like my only thing. Like
That's my
everything
only gripe.
else
Yeah.
works. Yeah.
Yeah, overall, it was a really good movie. And it's beautiful. Like, it's all black and white, but yeah, it's still beautiful.
Yeah, all black and white. There's like the sets are nice. Like granted, like
Yeah.
the main set that they're in is basically the town that they're saving, but then there's a lot of interior shots of like the barn that the the guy ends up sleeping in because he wants to be super nice. I was like that guy, the samurai that tells him like, hey, just fucking like
You
take
give up
your
your
house,
room?
man. This is your
Yeah.
house.
That was my favorite part. It's like, why would you give up your house?
But
It's like,
the one thing
what?
I want to ask you, all right,
Yeah.
so there we hear about our lives nowadays are fairly pampered and easy, and we bitch and moan about everything that like is not so hard. But
Never.
to, to look back on like knowing that in history there are individuals that became samurai, became knights, became this like elite group of individuals,
Hmm.
and kind of like I think the kind of duel that that quiet samurai does with that like really like boisterous guy when they like kind of like duel with like sticks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then they kind of talk about we're like, oh, like if we duel with real swords like you're gonna die, and then
Yeah.
that does happen. And it's just like I wonder, like going back and like looking back at that time, like the people around them that weren't samurai were like, Jesus Christ, like how would you want to live like in that world where like you're gonna get chopped up and everything? Just like knowing like the mortality, like what was their mortality? Was that the reason why probably like they were douchebags and like thought so highly of them is like no one else wanted to do it or no one else could?
Well, they were only living in like 25 or 30 back then.
Most likely, yeah, right.
But I think it's I think it's similar to the way that people look at people in special forces. Like you have to be a certain type of individual to allow yourself to go through that pain and torture to get that end result.
True. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's how I look
it's
at it.
like yeah, it's like looking back at like the westerns that we watched were like the gunslingers, like that's why they kind of became
Infamous.
semi-celebrities in that
Yeah.
time and like comic books were made about them because it's like, oh, they just go out even though like we talked about like, oh, they didn't like their numbers of like how many like murders they did or shootouts they did were
Yeah.
typically like overly zealous and everything like to a huge extent,
Mm.
but that was what created that majesty and everything and in
Yeah.
that fantasy of like, oh, but they can do it, it's fine, like it's cool for them. I'll just read about it and everything. I don't know, I was
Exactly.
just thinking about that. I was like, I want to learn more about samurai and stuff and and just like all these like other like kind of like cultural individuals that like would do this like elite style stuff,
Hmm.
and whether or not were they all kind of like, I guess you kind of have to be like think highly of yourselves because it's like, hey,
Yeah.
like we never know what the hell we're gonna be getting into and
Yeah.
everything. I don't know.
Like you have to have that like I don't give a damn like attitude and confidence. Like I'm
I
gonna
think
go into
so.
this blindly and not care what the outcome is.
Yeah, and yeah, I was like, man, like, and then looking at the like when they were like walking around that town trying to like recruit samurai, I was like, was it back then? Were they always just walking around? Like, was it that many? Like, how many per person? Like in like a a span of 10 people were samurai or like a span of 100? Like, what was the ratio?
They just need to wear badges.
Yeah, right. Like, was anybody carrying a sword, a samurai? Like, is like, or like, were they fakers and stuff? Like the one dude that technically wasn't
Just
one.
what is that? Act of valor.
Yeah, yeah, but like I guess like that's why you have
Oh,
to
not
deal with the old
act. What
guy
is that
did.
called?
What stolen valor, right?
Stolen valor. That's the
Yeah,
one.
but I guess you kind of have to deal with that old guy did, where like, oh, just kind of swing at them without them knowing and see what they do to like test their test their
Oh, you have to. Yeah,
samurai-ness. Yeah,
you have to, because you know people are gonna fake. Be like, I'm a samurai. It's like, all right, cool, let's go at it.
that hence why the guy that was drunk and stuff, and where the old guy said like a samurai will never drink to excess to numb their senses.
Yeah, they know better. They know what they gotta fight at a drop of a dime.
All right. Well, what'd you end up giving it as your rating?
So I just rated it this morning. I put it as a three. I should have given it a 3.5. I
Yeah,
think like the only gripe I had was just the length.
I gave it a 4 because I was trying to think in the perspective of like when someone watched this back then, like what did they come out of the movie theater
It'll blow their mind.
thinking? I know they're probably thinking like, "Holy crap! Like that's a movie." So that's why I was like thinking in the time, like even this movie kind of shits on some like even recent movies and everything in terms of like story, character development, action. It's not gory, it's not bloody and everything. There's a romantic interest that gets kind of like blown up because of the dad not wanting the samurai to kind of like to to date their women and stuff. And so like there's a lot of nuance to the story that is different, can be seen as different from like nowadays and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think I would have given it I think if we would have watched this before Crouching Tiger, I would have given this a different rating. But Crouching Tiger like took the cake for me.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's like I was debating between a 3.5 and a 4. And but yeah, maybe like the main thing in my head was like, well, I can't really fault it too much because of the length. Like
Yeah.
that's whatever. Like you're getting your money's worth and all that stuff. But it's like I watched it for free on HBO Max, but so but yeah, yeah, I think if I ever do watch it again, I'll revisit that rating.
Yeah. I would. I know our next question, so I'm just gonna jump into it. I would buy this. I would add this to my collection.
Me too. I think there's like if you are going out and buying Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and not buying this also for your collection, it's almost like what's the point? And
Yeah,
everything.
you got to see
Like
where it started. Like, come on.
yeah, yeah, and I think and this is like I think a fairly cool snapshot in cinema back then, and
Yeah.
in terms of writing, in terms of everything, and so Crouching Tiger would probably, and many other films would probably not be what they are without one of these films, like Seven Samurai.
Hmm.
So,
That's a
yeah.
fact.
All right. Well, any last words, Kai?
Uh, yeah, I think everyone should check this out.
Yeah, I think no matter what, maybe we should end our discussions always as if we recommend it or not.
Yeah,
I think definitely if you are able to watch it over multiple days or in one sitting, go ahead. I think we recommend it.
watch it up to the intermission. You got a 5 minute little break, get a snack, maybe take a nap, and watch the rest of it.
Right. And
Treat yourself.
if you have HBO Max, it's free. Come on.
There
There's
you go.
no harm in watching it and stuff,
You can
but
take as many breaks as you want. Just pause it, leave the room
right.
for a little bit, go go drive, come back and finish it. It'll be
Yep.
good.
But yeah. All right, cool. So you want to take us out?
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Saturday Night Popcorn. I'm Kai.
And this is Jason, and we'll be back next week for another one.